So this is a really interesting session for us. When Stefano, Lynn, and I, and along with Mary, we were planning the program for today and tomorrow, we heard that, first we heard our Vice Dean of Entrepreneurship and Vice Dean of San Francisco, Lori Rosenkopf, who's seated at the back, is joining us. And we said, great, that's what a pleasure to have her fly down from Philly to be here. Then we heard Patty, who's our Vice Dean of Exec Ed, is here. We said, even better. That's amazing. We have two of our leadership team here. Then we heard that our Dean is able to join us as well. At that point, to be honest, I got suspicious because I said, maybe they're thinking we're taking this budget and having a big party and they're all, confirming this is real. So hopefully they're now convinced it's real. I'm kidding, of course. It's great for us as organizers to have our leadership team here. So we really appreciate all of you coming down here. Thank you for that. It's a great pleasure to introduce our two speakers. So first up, my colleague and our dean, Erika James. Erika joined Wharton in 2010 as our dean. It was probably apt that she joined that year because one of her research areas is crisis leadership, and not 2010, 2020. And 2020, during COVID, when she joined, that's kind of what we needed. And she helped in that capacity. And she also does work on workplace diversity and a number of other really important issues at Wharton and beyond. Erika also serves on the board of Morgan Stanley and Philadelphia Orchestra. She has written a great book, which is called The Prepared Leader, which I think is captures a lot of her own experiences in leadership, both at Wharton and previously at Emory. I guess one of the more important aspects, at least from my perspective, is Erika has been a great champion for AI within Wharton, and over the past few months has really helped elevate the number of activities and resources for AI within the school. And part of that is our recent partnership with Accenture, where Accenture and Wharton are coming together in a strategic partnership to help advance knowledge sharing of AI to business and beyond. So there's a number of things we're doing as part of that partnership. And of course, Accenture's support for this conference is one of them, but many other things that are brewing and will be announced soon. And it's great pleasure to also welcome James Crowley, who is one of the executive team leaders at Accenture. He is the Global Products Industry Practices Chair, which in practice means he is leading multiple different industry practices at Accenture, not at Wharton. And that includes consumer goods, retail, automotive, and a number of other really important industries. He works closely with the CEO team within Accenture. And outside of that, I think one of the really important things he's done is he's an alumnus of the Wharton School as well. So we appreciate your staying connected with the school. And with that, I'll turn it over to Erika, and thank you both for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. So good evening, everyone. It is truly, truly wonderful to be here. Kartik, thank you for that incredible introduction for both of us. And I'm still questioning whether or not this is a party because the gentleman in front of me has a glass of wine in front of him. And there aren't too many conferences I've been to where there's wine in the session. So you're so I'm thrilled to be here. And to Kartik's point, what's happening now at all of our schools, quite frankly, what's happening in the world, the importance of artificial intelligence and how we understand that and the implications that it has, both for the research and the data insights that you all are pursuing, but also the implication for business is increasingly important. And so there's nothing that I would rather be spending my time doing right now than being in this room with all of you. And as a faculty member who has turned administrator, thank you for allowing me to be in my happy place for a little bit and just listen to the research that you all are doing and remind myself how important it is for the academic community to be in conversation with each other around really important topics. James, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled to be here with you, and I'm thrilled for our new partnership, and grateful that you have extended your relationship with Wharton post not only being an alumnus of the school, but also finding opportunities for the two of our institutions to do really important work together. So I don't want to prolong this introduction because I know people are eager to hear from you, and in particular the way in which industry is thinking about artificial intelligence and whatnot. So we have the Wharton Artificial Intelligence and Analytics Initiative at Wharton, and the mission of that is to become the academic authority on the application of AI and analytics to fuel business innovation and to positively impact society. So that's largely, even if you were to take out AI or analytics, the impact that business education can have on society is absolutely crucial. Help us understand what the mission is for Accenture and the role that AI is now starting to play in that mission.
Absolutely. No, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. Looking forward to this conversation, and it's great to see this many people who are kind of leading the way, honestly, in the thinking and opportunity associated with AI and Gen AI. So from an Accenture perspective, maybe I'll start there. For many of our clients and companies, we view the next, frankly, 12 to 36 months as kind of a moment of truth for organizations. Really an opportunity with the advent of AI and Gen AI to transform or what we like to say, reinvent their business. And, the question really becomes for our clients is how many clients are going to take advantage of that opportunity and use this moment to grab a technology that can be fundamentally disruptive and extremely beneficial to businesses that are complex and need change. The alternative, though, is also how many companies will not make that choice, and candidly, it'll probably put them further behind in both their technology agenda and in the modernization of their business. So that's the dialogue that we're out there having with our clients. We work with the largest clients. It is a C-suite dialogue. The goodness is, I know, we talk a lot about technology waves and digital in particular. We feel that digital gave a lot of our C-suite clients the literacy around technology, but that this wave of technology requires a different level of engagement, that they really need to lean in because it is that disruptive. It is, of all the technologies we've seen in technology waves, beyond maybe the internet, this one is the most ubiquitous. It's the most humanizing. I mean, the examples that we heard from earlier, the notion of, all of us having our own autonomous agent that works on our behalf, or, how we interface with technology, intelligent interfaces where you can query in a very human way. I mean, that's just very different than all the technology waves that have come prior to this. And that's exciting, but it's also candidly quite daunting for many of our clients. Even if you think about the pandemic, the number one reason many of the C-suite clients were embarking on their transformation agenda was technology. The second, 79%. The second reason was changing consumer behavior, but the number one reason was technology. And if you think about what's just happened over the course of the last, 12 months with Gen AI, candidly, much longer with AI. I think the example earlier, yes, how do you delineate what was previously being done versus not? I just feel, we feel like there's been a whole host of fuel, if you will, dumped on a kind of burning fire, and that creates a big opportunity. So, we're excited by it. We're taking it very seriously on behalf of our clients, and we're making quite a number of investments. For us, we announced we're investing $3 billion in the AI agenda, which is a very substantive investment for a firm like Accenture. We've got 1,400 patents pending. We've done 1,000 projects so far this past year, and we're really learning ourselves and trying to deploy those learnings to our clients. So it's a big effort, but it also requires us to reflect on our own business and how that business will change. I found the commentary on, the lower skilled worker or even the lower pyramid worker, how does that change? I mean, we're in that midst of that dialogue with our consulting workforce. That's at the heart of the agenda. I mean, how do you groom an analyst through to manager, through to MD when, much of what an analyst has done previously, there's an opportunity to do it either faster or better through this technology. So, but it's an exciting time. We do it as opportunity, and not, there will be challenges, but we view it more as opportunity and really an opportunity for a company like Accenture who plays, at the intersection of human ingenuity and technology. This is a nice opportunity for us.
Yeah. So I just want to let the audience know that there's an opportunity for you to ask a question to James, and there's a QR code on the screen that if you scan that QR code and submit a question, I will get access to it, and when we get to that point in the future, we'll invite some of your questions. So feel free to think of questions as we're having the conversation. James, I want to pick up on something that you said that reminded me what I feel as a dean is important for us to constantly be doing. So I have the good fortune of working with 240-ish faculty members who are experts in their field. And their field oftentimes apply to business-related issues or organizational-related issues. And through their research, they oftentimes counsel other companies. But I also feel like Wharton, the University of Pennsylvania, is itself an organization that should eat its own cooking in some respect, meaning we have to leverage some of the insights that are coming from our faculty to run the school. How have you seen taking the insights that you all are gaining around artificial intelligence with the expertise that you have, how are you using that on Accenture, not just for your clients?
Right, it's a great question, and as we do like to use, and we have a term we use, Julie Sweet, our CEO, would say this: Accenture is one of our best credentials, where when we go into a client, we like to talk about the things that we've done to ourselves, because we are a technology firm, we should be leveraging the technology equally. So candidly, I'll start with, this is a massive learning agenda for our whole organization, our leaders all the way down through, our analysts and entry-level employees. So, this past year, I think we did 13 million hours of training. So most of that oriented around AI, Gen AI. So on average, about 2.5 days per person at Accenture, and just upskilling around the technology. We deployed, we have something we call TQ, it's called your technology quotient, so it's a little bit of a play on, everyone has to kind of keep their technology quotient at a certain level, all leaders too, and we measure that. And, but this is like, for us, it's a way to both deliver learning to our people, but also inspire curiosity with all of our people, because there is an element you need to kind of be exploring this topic yourself on your own time, et cetera. So that's kind of, I would put that in the learning bucket, and at a leadership all the way down. We're also reinventing how we do our work, and we've created our own. We have our own proprietary information based on all the client work we do. We've built a Gen AI asset on top of that, so that we can query that, we can query the work, we can build presentations, build pitch decks, et cetera. We do not recommend bringing them in based on the initial build, but it gives teams a very easy starting point. We've also built some specific elements of those. I'll give you an example. We do a lot of M&A, merger integration work, so we have an LLM called Merger Max, but it's very oriented around the M&A space and M&A conversations, both pre and post deal. So it enables that type of conversation. If I pivot to some of our big technology work, I lead the products industries. These are mostly industries that have a heavy make function, so they're creating something. And in that context, SAP is a big technology. It's a big technology, the big partner of ours. And one of the one of the things we hear most from our clients is, how can I do SAP faster and cheaper? Like, they're all, if you've been through an SAP journey, they're big, they're large, they're massive investments, and they want that to be streamlined, they want it to be standardized, et cetera. So we've built assets, functional requirements. When you build SAP, we've got them all from hundreds of clients. We've loaded them in. We can give you the 80-page functional requirements for, record to report as a starting point, and then we can iterate on that. And that takes a bunch of work out, and we can deliver that back to the client and condense some of our work. So I think we are definitely turning the technology on ourselves. But it is certainly a learning journey, and there are equal to the challenges we see with our clients. There's challenges internally to do that too.
So it seems that every industry can benefit from artificial intelligence in some form or another, but it's also clear that some industries might be struggling with the impact of that technology.
Mm-hmm.
Given the experience, given your experience within Accenture and the plethora of clients that you deal with, which industries should we expect to feel the AI impact first, and how would that technology change those organizations or transform them even?
So I'll answer both from an industry and then maybe even a functional perspective, because I think there's an industry angle to this, but there's also a functional angle to it. From an industry perspective, we do our own research. We believe there's $10.2 trillion of economic value that can get unlocked in the next 15 years from AI generative. So we believe there's a lot of industry value that can unlock. What does that mean? I spend a lot of time in life sciences, and if you think about a life sciences client, the average life sciences client, they would invest $2.6 billion at a minimum to bring a new drug to market. It would take 10 to 11 years on average, and the fail rate is approximately 90%. So only 1 in 10 will make it through. It's going to take 10 to 11 years, and you got to be willing to put 2.6 billion on the table minimum. Some estimate that's upwards of 6 billion. The reason I say that is it's a massive innovation cycle for this industry, and this is an industry, and we got into the conversation around can Gen AI and AI help kind of a low-skilled worker or a high-skilled worker or highly productive or unproductive. In life sciences, some of the hardest areas to tackle are these high-skilled workers, the knowledge worker, the scientists, and that's where we see the biggest opportunity for AI and Gen AI, and in particular.
Why that group in particular?
Because that's where the spend and the value for their business is. If they can take a drug and take 3 or 4 years off that, 2 things happen. One, they get to peak year sales earlier, so that's the business benefit. The social benefit is that patients get that medicine faster at scale. And the cases are real. The opportunity for Gen AI to create molecular structures or candidates, if you will, for basically undruggable candidates or things that we thought were undruggable before. That's how clients are using it. There are 50 products going through clinical right now that have been accelerated or impacted by AI or Gen AI, and that number will only increase. If you think about how in life sciences they develop the clinical protocols for a trial, they very much look at internal data. They're looking at their clinical data, but there's a ton of real world evidence, a ton of medical journals and science. This technology gives you the opportunity to optimize clinical protocols across both the clinical data that you have, but also these broader data sources. So there's real value in this industry in particular. I think the other industry that surfaces quite a bit for us is what we would call software and platforms. But I do think if you think about search, and search will change. I mean, I have my ChatGPT app, and I tend to use. I'm starting to use that a little bit more. Where I go, it's just I think the way we do search will fundamentally change, and these clients are rethinking that's going to impact their business, their ad business, their marketing business, et cetera. So they have a. So it's interesting because we do look at an industry lens of which industries get impacted the most, life science, or have the most opportunity. Life sciences software platforms come up. All industries have some impact, so they're all there. The one we never mention, and I'll mention it here, is legal services, because it was so off the chart. It was so off the chart because it's a heavy content industry, right? And that's where I go to the functional lens. If you think about functions, the conversation around marketing is very relevant. It's a heavy content function. So because, by our estimate, 56% of hours within marketing can be affected by Gen AI. That's huge. It's one of the lead candidates because it's so content driven. So
then on the flip side of that, are you seeing industries that are either slower to be impacted or more resistant to the technology?
I think that the industries that are, one of the things that we see happening is it's less about speed. They're all kind of embracing the impacts. It's more about the scale of how they're embracing it. So one of the things we talk about is the reinvention of the business. And we got into this there's a worker conversation, but there's a way something works today, and there's a process that exists today. So the key from our perspective and what we are out there talking to our clients about is that you really need to look at how your process looks today and then kind of reinvent that process and reinvent the workforce around it. Where we see most of our clients right now, and this is where we need to pivot, is most of our clients are in that use case, pilot, prove it to me, let me see. It's very point examples, and we can create a point example that shows, hey, I can create an ad with this, and the ad is not bad. That car ad is not that bad. But that's not how the process for creating content works today. As an example, there's a medical legal review step that's in there, and if they said I created this with Gen AI, what would they say to that? Well, I can't use this. So if you don't recreate that end-to-end process around it, the opportunity to embrace the technology and really have it impact your business is difficult. We are seeing a number of clients do, and deal, you could argue whether deal size is an analog, but larger deals, because those are the clients and we see that starting to scale, and that is a good metric for clients who are thinking with a transformative lens. They want to go after this at scale. But we still think there's a lot of room for clients to move and companies to move more quickly out of the use case kind of pilot mode and into the work reinvention mode, if that makes sense.
So in listening to some of the sessions before you and I came up, the conversation inevitably goes to the human aspect of AI and people's readiness to adopt this technology, their receptiveness to what it can do, and their fear associated with it. How do you all advise clients on the human impact that this has and get them ready for that dimension?
Yeah, the human aspect of this is enormous, and we are, we're talking to a lot of clients about the talent implications, and there's two things that I think come up a lot. One is thinking about it as how do you unleash the opportunity, and that's a little bit of the inspiration. That's where the training, the comfort level, investing in training. Candidly, many companies have pulled back a lot on learning investment, and just the notion of turning learning investment back on and finding the room to invest in it is a big challenge for them. So that's one aspect of it, and that's sort of a big element of how we tackle it. The other is how leaders engage in it and how leaders are seen engaging in the topic, and something we call leader-led learning. But like our leaders, I think the leaders of organizations need to really be equally embracing the technology so that people see that. If it is, hey, just deploy it into, to automate this job or this job, we don't see clients moving very quickly in that mode, if you will. And then lastly, the conversation before struck a chord, and so when you look at any particular part of a value chain, there's a set of roles today that support that, right? You can name the scientists or the call center agents, or we can talk about roles. The challenge with this technology is it impacts lots of people and roles, but different pieces of what they do. And one of the things we're talking to a lot of our clients about is the need to get more oriented, you kind of shift the orientation from role to skill, and really have a clear view of what does your skill buildup look like in your organization today? What does your skill organization need to look like tomorrow? And then in that context, how do you change your workforce to support it, if that makes sense? And most of our clients can't articulate what their skill mix looks like. They can articulate roles, they can articulate heads and head count, but they can't say, what is the skill mix of each of those roles? Which ones are going to get impacted? Okay, what are the new skill mixes? What does that workforce look like in the context of a new process? And then, okay, now how do I go from A to point C? Does that make sense?
It does. I want to ask a follow-on to that question, and it's a selfish question, but then I'm going to turn it to the audience and take some of your questions if you've submitted them. So selfishly, one of the things that I as a dean have responsibility for doing is ensuring that the students that we educate have as much access and opportunity to jobs and roles once they leave our institutions. Yet, when I spend a lot of time with executives, let's say in the financial services industry, because that's where a lot of our students go, I'm hearing from them that they are looking at hiring fewer students, or they need students with different kinds of skills because of technology, because of AI and whatnot. So you're not prepared for this question perhaps, but how would you advise business schools to think about the preparation of students going into industry now, given the ubiquitousness of this technology?
That's a great question. I think it's almost like, and I think I kind of anchor it back to some of what we're doing is as we think about our analysts or our MBAs, we're rethinking what their role looks like. And in that context, we're saying you used to do this. You used to summarize research reports. You would do this type of analysis. We don't need you doing that much of that. You will use these tools to do that. What we need you doing more is the inference, the executive insight, the challenge, the prompting, the ability to use the tools. So there's a different set of skills, and we need to articulate that. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of that's where there's an opportunity. If I think about maybe even this partnership at some level, there's probably an opportunity to kind of share how we think about the change in that role and where it's going versus how you think about how you're building talent in support of that. I think it would be an amazing opportunity or amazing intersect point, because that for us is important, and we've got to get that right. We don't believe there's a world. I came up in the consulting side of the business. There's a craft there. We would call it a player coach model. There isn't a world where I envision we lose the bottom of the pyramid. I just don't see how that could happen. There's too much nuance to how you learn to interact with clients, how you build client relationships, how you do the work, the core work, how you present. And we can't lose some of that, but there is quite a bit of impact to some of the foundational work that gets done. So I guess what I'm saying is there's a rebalancing in that skill set that will occur. We have a view on what that looks like. I almost think you got to start looking, and there's some new skills too. I said prompting's a new skill. There's some skills that are needed more of, like change management. We talk about all the people implications. 30% of executives don't believe their change management capability is prepared to handle the scale of the change with their own people. I mean, that's actually 30% feel, it's the opposite. 30% of executives feel their change management capability is capable of handling. So that leaves 70% not feeling that way. And I think there's some skills that, when I came into this industry and the work we did with clients, in particular change management, process re-engineering, those two skill sets I think will come back, quite a bit, and are becoming extremely relevant at this moment in time in light of what has to happen.
I'm keenly interested in this question because we, all of our schools need to adapt
Yeah.
in the same way to ensure that our product, our customer, our students
Yeah.
are prepared for what you all are going to be needing them to do. So, not surprisingly, we've had a number of questions come in from the audience, so I'm going to gather a few of those.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is an interesting one. How do you anticipate the impact of Gen AI will differ between developed and emerging economies, particularly given Accenture's presence in both regions?
That's a great question. I think from a developed versus emerging, I mean, we have a lot of presence in both. Obviously, we're leaning on a lot of our emerging presence for some of our innovation on the technology front and our asset build out. That's a huge engine for us that is really helping us drive, our assets and what we call our solutions. One of the things that's changed in our industry in particular is, the bar for differentiation. When you show up to a client, you say, you bring kind of an idea, the bar for differentiation keeps going up. And as our technology, as some of the technologies become more capable of doing stuff, our bar for differentiation goes up. We need assets on top of technologies that exist. We need accelerators. We need hard things that we bring to clients that, like in life sciences, when you get into cell and gene therapy, that creates a different process for manufacturing. And, some of the technologies don't understand that process. We have an accelerator on top of that. So that the role of some of we're putting a lot of emphasis with some of our capability in our emerging markets around the build out of those solutions assets. I think generally speaking, like my products clients have, most of them are fairly well globally represented. I mean, massive CPG companies, massive life sciences companies. They're in every market, and most of them, it's less about, it's not necessarily different. It's more about where do they get started, and where do they go first. And some of the capability is equal. We talked a lot about an emerging markets client. We're deploying Gen AI connected to their commerce technology in all the major emerging markets that they're in. I mean, that's no different than what we're doing with another client. But yeah, so I think there are some differences, but there's a lot of similarity as we start on this journey, I would say.
Another question from the audience. How will AI transform future leadership? If AI can help data-driven side strategy decision-making, should CEO executives focus more on humanity's soft side, like transformational leadership, to manage the subordinate workforce?
I mean, we're pretty direct in our message that the CEO and the C-suite need to be directly engaged in this agenda. And in particular, we need the CEO and the C-suite setting kind of a bold ambition. Large consumer goods company. Every marketing campaign that we deploy, and they deploy thousands, will have started with Gen AI. So immediately you put that mandate out there, immediately the organization now is going to react around, okay, how do I embrace this technology and how do I build it into the current process? A large life sciences company, a mandate around redefining how oncology diagnosis happens, how they use information in oncology diagnosis. This is Roche. I think leaders, have a big role in the inspiration and ambition part of this agenda, and I do think, this is an interesting point of where I think that, the academic and the industry opportunity exists, because I think a lot of the research that you're doing is super leading and actually super inspirational and helps form the basis for that ambition. I think the other aspect of leadership, though, is the financial unlock to go on this journey. And, at the end of the day, and you're gonna need to create capacity and fuel, if you will, to invest in this type of journey. and it's going to need to come out of some other things that you're probably doing, and that's where many of our leaders need to kind of help architect. We can architect the journey, or we can work. They need to architect the journey, but we need to create that investment capacity to do that. If the leaders don't do that, I give you an example. We have clients who have technology budgets that are 80%, 80% of the budget. We're talking billion-dollar budgets that are maintenance. That's just so they're spending 80% of their budget just keeping the lights on and the infrastructure work. And that's like an environment where, and part of that is, some of these clients have been serial acquirers, so they've never really adopted leading technology, and they're just holding it together. So if you're not going to create the investment capacity for, a company like that to go on this transformation journey, I think you shouldn't expect to get there. I guess that's a big thing. And then personally engage. I think they have to be. I don't think they can locate the problem. I'll take emotion and you take. I think they have to personally engage in it and be seen and visibly engage in it.
So as you think about leadership, generally, people at the top of the organization who you have identified as needing to play a pretty proactive role in the rollout of this. Generationally, they are of a different age cohort than younger folks coming in as analysts, if you will, or associates, or who are lifers with technology, who are very adept at leveraging and using and knowing how to finesse these tools. Are you seeing demographic differences within your clients' organizations based on the readiness level of senior folks versus newer folks?
I think it's the people who've been around longer, you're more likely to hit some roadblocks. At the same time, some of those people also have seen the industry operate a certain way for a long time, and they're sort of many of them that are looking for, wait a minute, we need to right this ship. And for some of them that feel the urgency around their mission, being that delivering healthy food to a family, or saving a patient's life or whatnot, like I do think that everyone can get their head around this. I think that the piece that's probably the difference is, to me, the difference factor, or the individual factor, is less about maybe a demographic. It's more about more of a characteristic, or a skill characteristic, or more of a trait, and it goes back to the curiosity, the willingness to change, the desire to tackle something kind of hard but super meaningful. To me, those are the things that are important, and they're not resident in every leader or individual in the organization.
Here's an interesting question to me. Have you seen your client companies changing their incentive structure to cater to AI deployment? And if so, can you give some examples?
Well,
you don't have to name names. Or maybe you want to.
I can tell you we've changed our incentive structure. So, we have definitely, we have financial objectives. Julie Sweet said we would do $2 billion in Gen AI business, committed that to the street last year. We did $2 billion. Ken had the remit for my business, so he did. I think Ken, I saw the last number. We'll do 934. We'll do half of it.
Half of it?
Yeah, we'll do about half. We probably overachieved on the 2, but it's probably 2.5, and we'll do about half to 40%. So that number is going to be $10 billion for this year. So we have.
From 2 to 10?
Yes, 2 to 10. We expect it to go.
In 1 year?
Yes, in 1 year. So so we are, but it is also very much core to our business, being a technology firm. So you would expect it to kind of flow through performance. I haven't seen, our clients, the performance metrics that they're setting out are more around their transformation and the achievement of the transformation over a certain time frame, not or in some cases, if they're not thinking transformatively and they're in that use case mode, their performance metrics that they're changing are probably more around delivery on, the remit that was given, the use case remit or whatever that might be, not like Gen AI broadly. I do see I see some of our technology leaders at clients starting to look at their deployment of technology capital with a Gen AI lens or an AI Gen AI lens. And that's important because that's a big bucket of investment. And, they're typically on the hook for managing that investment and deploying it to to areas of highest need and where they can have financial benefit for the organization. So that I have seen. And so interesting question, yeah.
So here's an area that I know we're going to be grappling with for quite some time, and that is the ethics associated with AI. So we have a faculty member at Wharton, Kevin Warbach, who has a podcast called The Road to Accountable AI. Mm-hmm. He's teaching a class called Big Data, Big Ethics. What are you seeing? What are the conversations that you're having internally and with your clients around the ethics of this technology?
Yeah, we sort of encapsulate ethics in responsible AI, and it's a mandate for us internally. We try to mandate it with our clients. It's not where it needs to be. We would, by our last count, we would say 2% of companies have a robust responsible AI program in place, and the key word there is robust. Many of our clients have, put governance and principles in place, right? But our view is you need to go much deeper than that. You need to be doing risk monitoring. You need to be doing bias testing. You need to be compliance checks. You need to be making sure individuals are adhering to your standard tech stack or the tech stack that you've at least said we're comfortable with. So, and that's much more robust than we have a committee that gets together every month to talk about our principles and compliance. Those are important. I'm not saying that's not important, but it has to go much deeper to that. And that's, one of the things we've said is that when our clients don't have a responsible AI framework program that we can adhere to, when we will bring our own, and we need to mandate that. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic. Like if we're going to show up and do work for you, give us your responsible AI framework and how your procedures, your policies, everything you do, and then we'll say if it's enough, and we'll use it if it's enough, and if it's not enough, then we'll use ours. Because we talked about what's the word, peculiarities, and we know the hallucinations, and we know the biases, and we just know that fundamentally the way that technology works, it can be wrong. And when you're developing drugs or when you're interfacing with customers and want to guarantee a certain experience, you can't afford that type of risk. So it's a big area to push on. It's not, we don't take it lightly, but there's a lot of work to be done. The interesting thing is, and I'll go back to an LS example, I think this is kind of interesting. Like we talked about content generation. So in life sciences, many of our clients are looking at large language models and how they can help streamline and speed the development of content and personalized content. The issue with that, though, is most life sciences clients have a medical legal review process that they have to have it. It's required. So when you put a piece out there, it has to go through checks that it conforms to what you've been approved to say. And that's just, you don't want a black box warning. You can't. This is FDA regulated. It's regulated in Europe. So, but what we're doing with many of our clients in life sciences is looking at, well, how does MLR, the medical legal review process, use Gen AI and AI to check the content creation Gen AI? So you're almost taking the technology and pointing it at each other, but with a different lens. It's trained in a different way. It's looking for adherence to the label. And so I think there are ways to make the programs more robust. There's a lot of work to be done, but there's also ways to actually embrace the technology to support that.
I have another interesting question from the audience. It says, the question is, the most translational AI tools are currently developed within industry. from your perspective, what's the unique academic edge in the AI area?
The unique academic edge in the AI area. In my view, I think it's just I talked a little bit about the ambition and the inspiration, but it's also the plethora of the breadth of kind of what you're looking at and what you're investigating, to be honest, and surfacing as potential issues or potential opportunities. And I think one of the areas of opportunities is I think some of it, even some of the things that were presented earlier, would be super relevant to clients, for clients to see, to understand the limitations. The depth of the limitation conversation is not the depth of conversation that a client is having. And I just think that's where I think academic can play a role in both bringing a wider lens, bringing more depth to the conversation, and candidly also fast forwarding a little further out on a longer horizon to say, what are the implications of this? The other thing that I do think is important is maybe lifting the lens up. So I think we talk about workforce implications, we talk about change management implications, but if we could get up a level to labor implications, what are the labor implications, and how do we, what does that mean? So there are some instances, or if we can get up a level into what are the technology spending limitations or opportunities. So I do think that's another opportunity for academia.
Thank you for that. I'm going to close this out with two additional questions, one from the audience and then one that I'm curious about. Within organizations right now, there's a lot of conversation on, not just organizations in society, there's a lot of conversation on equity.
Good.
How can these AI tools build equity for disadvantaged communities?
Good.
And maybe we shouldn't be presumptuous. Can they?
Yeah. I think it's a fascinating question. I don't have a specific answer to it. I think the one thing I would say is, the one thing going through my head is, to the extent that we believe that technology is ubiquitous and can be embraced by all, I think that creates an opportunity for, for equity when, versus, there obviously are cost limitations and some of that to using this, but I still come back to the fact that if the technology has, by our estimate, impacts 44% of all work hours, it's, if you're working, it's going to have some impact. And if that's the case, then there's an opportunity for you to embrace this and potentially embrace it faster than people around you or whatever, and create different opportunities. So I think it's anytime there's a disruptive force in my mind, there is an opportunity for all to potentially create opportunity for themselves. But that would be, I don't know, how do you think about it?
Well, I was sitting here thinking about the question posed from the audience earlier in terms of emerging markets that don't even necessarily have the same kind of access to AI. And as some markets, let's say in the Western Hemisphere, are becoming increasingly adept and facile and resourceful in using these, and other markets don't, societally, are we enhancing the gap between the haves and the have-nots? Are we, or do some countries, do some industries, do some sectors have responsibility to, provide support to other regions of the world where there's less access to these? Yeah, so I don't have an answer to this question, but it's interesting to think about as we look at the world becoming more and more divergent with respect to resources. Is AI contributing to that divergence, or is there an opportunity to bring the world closer together in that regard?
We do think, we did research, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, that there have been some inequities created through the use of data. There are data inequities that, Ken, I'm staring at you. You spent time on that effort, and I guess it is a fascinating question to think about how does new technology create or fuel inequity globally. And in some respects, I feel like the nature of the technology provides an opportunity for it not to, but in some respects, honestly, the cost and access always create, are the force of those fighting against that. So, good question.
Last question from me. This has been, for me, a riveting conversation. So
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd love to hear, and this is an opportunity for you on behalf of Accenture to brag a little bit.
Okay.
What is it that you think why is it Accenture's thought leadership that is so imperative on this topic? What do you all bring to the table that?
What do we at Accenture bring to the table? That's a great question. I mean, look, a couple things and hopefully you've heard a little bit of this through some of my commentary. We have a super client-centric culture. We're out in the market, working with companies, working with clients, and we're dealing with how the clients need to embrace change. So that's always our starting point. It's a client and their ability to embrace this. The second thing is we do heavily lean on our industry orientation, and we pride ourselves in having kind of a future view of our industry. So we need to paint a picture for industry executives of where that industry is going. We like to use the term, what's the next performance frontier? So we bring the new performance frontier views to our industry. So industry is a huge element of what we do. I mean, our technology aptitude and implementation is a big component of our DNA. Like we're not in the business of just, we're not in the research business for interesting ideation. We're in the change business and the execution business. And then our clients demand, and this is the important thing to get right. Our clients demand that there's a value unlock when we do something. Like it has to lead to P&L impact. And that's, it's a function of the types of clients we work with. And that's what we, that's the other lens we bring, is what's that P&L impact? What's that value view? So.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us. I know that certainly Wharton sends a lot of students your way. I suspect that many of the schools that are represented here, you hire a lot of their students as well, and I think you're just a leader. Accenture is a leader in the work that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the group. Thank you for having us, Dean. We have a great relationship and look forward to continuing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.